And we're live. Welcome to Music Matters with Jason Tramm, and thank you so much for joining us for our unique podcast community where we explore the triumphs and challenges of the performing arts world as seen through the eyes of distinguished artists. And thank you so much for helping us grow. We just hit 1,906 subscribers today, and we grow every day thanks to people like you who watch our show and who like and subscribe. Make sure you subscribe and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on our upcoming guests and topics. You can find us on all the social media platforms, and please like and share our videos. We really appreciate that. To see our over almost 300 past episodes, check out our website at www.jasontram.net. Again, that's www.jasontram with two M's.net. We have a wonderful guest today. We have Kris Angelis from LA, who is a distinguished and award-winning singer-songwriter who I think has just got one of the most beautiful voices. And I can't wait to talk to her. She's won lots of awards. Best Female Album, the 2013 LA Music Critics Awards. She's performed in all 50 states and was part of the Grammy Next program. And we're going to talk about her career and her work. And so welcome, Kris.
Hi, thank you.
I know it's early now, and I apologize for the early time, but we're going to wake up together.
Yeah, that's all right. It's the only thing is I'm usually up at this time. I just don't want to, sing really loud and people will be sleeping and yeah.
Well, I appreciate you being on the show. So, did you always know you wanted to be an artist?
I think so actually. Like it changed forms, but pretty much everything that I wanted to do as a child and as I got older was artistic. There was one point where I was like, I'm going to be a physical therapist, but that was just sort of as a job to have so that I could be in the arts.
We all have those jobs. I've been in many myself, and jobs to sustain our artistic habits as
Yeah.
we're growing.
Yeah, because I've always been somehow it's weird, but I was very, very shy as a child, but also really liked performing.
Interesting. I know a lot of opera singers and some conductors. Yeah, a lot of us are just pure. Like I'm an extrovert, pure out and out extroverts. And I know some who are just introverts and harness it for their performing and then get off the stage and their personality changes. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I know. I had this experience with which I've been I keep remembering this and keep being so incredibly lucky that I've gotten to know personally one of my biggest like influences and idols. Um I'm sure maybe you've probably heard of Brandy Carlisle.
Absolutely.
So like I met her a long time ago back when they, had just gotten signed or just before they got signed um and so like she actually came to some of my shows, some of my first
Wow.
shows. And but I was already like, you're amazing. I want to be like you. And I mean, hopefully not in like a totally nerdy way, but yes, definitely in a nerdy way. And she came to one of my shows and she said this to me when I got off stage. She like was like, "Come here, come closer," and she like put her hands on my shoulders and was like, "Kris, get it together and be like that all the time."
We all need those inspirations in our lives, don't we?
Yeah, so it was just funny in that way, like exactly what you were saying, that like I was just so kind of awkward and shy, like in my just life, but then I got on stage and I did whatever, and she was like, "You should just be like that all the time."
Were your parents musical? Do you come from a musical family?
No, not at all. My parents are very confused of where my sister and I came from. They're all like doctors and engineers and stuff.
That's
Um,
fantastic.
yeah. But I mean, there's a little bit of art in the background actually. Like I said, I as an growing up, I wanted to be a dancer. I wanted to be a writer. Yeah, singer, actress. I did for a long time. And this just sort of was the one that kind of flowed into it felt the best of how I was expressing myself and sort of it just became my focus. But what was my point? Oh, my grandmother was a ballet dancer. Um,
Ah.
and my grandfather could sing really well. He wasn't a singer, he was a surgeon, but so it's in there in the background.
It's always there, mixed up in the genetic mix,
Yeah.
and one of them will take and carry that forward. Now, you mentioned your sister. You have a twin sister, and I've heard you guys sing together. And I was just so interested because I have twins, so I was just very interested in that.
Yeah. Well, I do. I have an identical twin sister. The lore is that we wrote our first song together when we were 3.
Oh,
And and yeah, would just perform together all the time. And like we would, instead of, I mean, I guess maybe this is normal. I'm not sure. But I've always found that when as I've gotten older, I've realized that trying to decide what's normal by checking in with my twin sister isn't exactly the best like point of reference, because we're so similar and maybe weird in the same way probably. But anyway, we would do, when we were playing pretend, it would be like we would create the script and like what was going to happen, and we would rehearse, and then we would do it for real. Maybe that's something that other people do, but we were always, yeah, kind of in performance mode, and learned how to harmonize together. My sister, for some reason, has this innate ability to harmonize. Like she taught me how to do it, um, and she actually, as she says, loves to be a background singer. So there's no worry about being in the spotlight or whatever. She's an actress, so she's doing her own movie star thing, and
Both creatives, I love it. Creative twins. That's so interesting.
yeah, yeah, and I get to be her little special skill when she needs a twin when she's acting. So it all works out.
That's amazing. So tell us about your journey as a songwriter. When did you write your first song? You said 3 years old. What's the first one you
Yeah,
remember?
that one. That's the first one I remember.
Wow.
I still know how it goes.
What does
um,
a 3-year-old write a song about?
Uh, I mean, it goes like this. It was like, I'm a little girl, 55 and cold. I want to go inside where it's toasty warm. That's it.
It's a great song.
Who knows why we said 55? Don't know.
Like, was that the address? Or was it just?
Maybe it was the temperature. I don't think we were that aware. I don't know.
Like,
Maybe we just liked how it
I read
sounded.
nearby you grew up in Florida,
Yes.
so it probably wasn't 55 in Florida.
It was like, okay, we grew up in northern Florida and central
Northern
northern.
Florida, that makes
So
a difference.
it gets freezing sometimes. Not for very long, but it does.
I know that the iguanas fall out of the trees when it hits 55. That's never good.
Yeah. But yeah, we grew up on a farm there. We had horses and cows and um, you know, trees.
Now, did you always? What were your first instruments? Did you play piano, or did you study the piano as growing up? Take voice lessons?
My I did take some voice lessons. I was in choir, like in church and stuff. Did, you know, theater camp, and I my very first instrument was violin.
Ah,
I really wanted to play the violin, and actually, I realized later that I really wanted to play the fiddle. So I was frustrated with the classical. I was like, "What the heck? This isn't as fun." Um, but yeah, first violin, and then I went to guitar as I got older and was like more into writing songs and feeling like, well, this is easier to play and sing with. But I still have it, my great grandfather's violin that he brought over on a ship from Germany, and it had catgut strings when I first got it, and it's really cool.
do
I
you
want to
still
play it.
do you still play the violin?
Not really. I mean, I can, but I'm not very good.
Not
But
part of your professional act yet.
no, I would love to bring it back a little bit. Like maybe I could just bust it out for one song, and people would be like, "What? You're doing
That'd
it?
be awesome. Yeah.
The one thing I can do."
So when you started getting into songwriting, what comes first? What came first to you? Was it the lyrics? Was it the chords? Was it the melodies? How do you put together your music, and how's that changed over the years?
I mean, it's usually lyrics first. That tends to be my what comes out of me the most. But sometimes it is like I'll have a little melody that I like in my head, and then I put lyrics to it. But usually it's just whatever's going on that I'm thinking about, and I kind of write it down. And then I have to sit down and like actually formulate the song, and put music to it. And then of course it's back and forth. Like, do you write also?
I've composed some, but not. I mostly I bring people's music to life as a conductor, but I have in the past.
That's awesome. But yeah, so I'm sure you know the kind of concept, like you have like whatever it is that piece that then you build around. So I'll have like a lyric that's the main lyric, and then I have the music that goes with that, and then whatever melody might follow that melody goes well, and then I find the lyrics that go into that, and it's kind of, all on top of itself. Sometimes I write all the lyrics at once and then and then the melody. That's It can be a little harder, but
It
I
sounds
don't know.
like it, trying to fit that in and then having to work in reverse. I'm always fascinated by the process of singer songwriters because it's such an individual and unique thing.
Yeah, and I've done some co-writing where I work with these amazing co-writers and musicians who are just so good at their skill set, like that they can just create a track like on the spot and like, oh, this sounds good. Okay, now let's come up with a melody and put over it. Okay, now you write the lyrics, Chris, and that's been fun and interesting too.
Have
Um,
you had any? Have you been to Nashville? Have you worked in Nashville with that singer songwriter market?
I have been to Nashville, but I haven't really delved into that working collaborating there yet.
I'm always
But I will be
fascinated
back
by
there.
that circuit because they have tons of like this. I would call it speed dating. They have like the speed dating singer songwriter thing, and they get together almost every night somewhere different, and they'll you try it out, and if it doesn't work, next.
Yeah,
It's just fascinated. Like, and often it doesn't work out, but sometimes it does, and I'm just
yeah.
such an interesting concept.
I mean, I've had a lot of great success with co-writing. It's been really fun, and we come up with really great songs. It's so satisfying and awesome when it clicks. Um, but I also maybe it's selfish or something, I don't know. Like I've recently, I think maybe since the pandemic, I got really introspective and was like, I don't want to go write anymore. I'm working on it. I'm like, I just scheduled one yesterday because I'm like, you got to do it. But because I get so personal, my songs are always really personal.
We'll definitely
And
delve into that because you know
yeah,
you feel that immediately whenever you listen to your music.
oh, thanks. But yeah, I just sometimes I feel like, oh my gosh, I don't, this is so personal. I don't want to let it, I don't want to give it to someone else because invariably it's going to become something different than what I imagined it was, and they're going to bring their experiences into it and whatever. And if it's something that I feel really strongly that I want to be like one of those cathartic songs that I'm like, I really need to get my story out and my feelings out, whatever. Sometimes it's hard to do that with a co-writer. It has worked before if a co-writer is really on board with just like, okay, let's figure it out. I'm going to focus on what this is about for you, which is awesome. But sometimes I get a little like, no, don't touch my song.
We have to take pride in our work, right? That's so important
Yeah.
that you have the pride in your work, and it is such a personal field we're in. I know as a conductor, when I bring a piece to life, it's like this is my interpretation. I pour my heart and soul into it, and I give it to the audience, and
Hmm.
we take it very carefully. I say like it's like an architect, or like yeah, like an architect, and the building's got to stand, right? And we take very great pride in that.
Yeah. And now I can't remember exactly who it was. I think it was either Anna Nalick or Jamie Cullum, or maybe they both said something similar, um, where they had an album coming out and they were like, hey, this is an album that I'm working on for the last, 2 years. This is really personal. I've had a lot of growth, blah, 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 whatever they were saying. And I'm so excited that it's coming out tomorrow, but I'm a little sad because it won't be mine anymore. I'm excited, but it won't be mine anymore because tomorrow it'll be yours, the audience.
What's that like? I was on your Spotify account today or a couple times. I said you get like average of 10,000 monthly listeners. People all over the world that interact with your music. What's it like when it comes back to you? When it goes around the world and you hear back from a fan? What's that like for you?
It's amazing. I'm still blown away by it. Like sometimes it can become kind of commonplace, but then I have to remind myself, I'm like, whoa, Chris, look, you have fans literally watching you from the UK in the middle of their night or whatever, or just the fact that they're like, my brother-in-law travels a lot for his work, and I think he was in Australia or something, and he was at a festival and he met these girls that were from somewhere else, some other country that wasn't Australia. I can't remember where they were from. And he was just chatting with them stuff, and they were looking at each other's like, "Oh, what's on your iTunes and what's on your playlist?" And he found me on their playlist, and he was like, "Oh, that's my sister-in-law." And they were like, "What? Oh my god, you
That's
know her?" And
crazy. I
I'm like,
love that.
"That's amazing."
It's amazing how music can cross borders so easily. I mean, where's some of the most interesting places you receive messages from that you would never expect?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Um,
I'll give you an example. We get a lot of messages from Kenya. People watch our show in Kenya, and I'm always trying to figure out why. We've had a couple African guests on, but I just like, I guess there's people who like Music Matters in Kenya. I just find that so
that's
interesting.
so cool. Yeah, I can't think of anything interesting in that way. The one thing that I have been noticing over the last year or so is that I seem to be really popular in the UK, which is awesome.
That is
I would
awesome.
love to. I want to be popular in the UK. I want to go play there, and I actually looked into it, but there's all kinds of visa stuff need to work out.
The agents will work that out. Your music would do great over there, especially if there's and people would like it. I get it. There's such a personal communication in your music, and people with singer-songwriters, we always want to feel moved by the story, right? I think that's the most important thing when I hear a singer-songwriter. I want to be, immediately in your world, and you do that so interestingly. It's just like instantaneous. It's like,
Oh, thanks. I
how?
wonder why.
Well,
What is
I
that?
think I love to ask that question. It's like, what makes your music so personal? And tell us, like, did that come easy to you?
I I mean, what makes it so personal is just that it's really, really personal.
It is
Like
okay.
I completely genuinely and like 99.5% of the time, it's about things that actually happened to me. Um, every once in a while, I mean, okay, and I'm sort of stealing from a songwriter that I very much respect, but he's said like just because it's in a song doesn't necessarily mean it's the entire story or
Of
the
course.
exact story. Like it's a songs are like an expression of an emotion and a moment. And like there's a song on this record that I think about that actually where I was 100% thinking about this specific person when I wrote it. But if you listen to the lyrics, it's not quite the situation with them. And I would hate for them to be like, "Hey, I didn't do that to you." Like but it's more about like the idea that I had, this concept, and then I used the personal experience to like fill in that concept.
Like artistic license. You mean like the movie wasn't exactly like the actual story? No, of course we have artistic
Exactly.
license in everything.
Yeah. But also to be totally honest, like a lot of the songs are like if I ever play them I don't know if anyone out there who's a singer-songwriter, if you've ever played a song about someone while they're in the room, it's like an experience.
That sounds kind of wild, actually.
And they would definitely know it's about them.
So behave yourself, everybody,
Oh,
or you'll
sometimes
wind up in a singer-songwriter's world, immortalized forever.
sometimes it's good stuff.
That's true, and sometimes it winds up in a play or a movie, and I think that's I think a lot of the best fiction comes out of comes out of reality,
Hmm. For sure.
and it gets immortalized in art, whether it's a Beethoven symphony or whether it's pop music and pop or any I guess any genre because it's all universal human expression.
Hmm. Yeah, that's what I've always said. Yeah, music is pretty like universal language. You can tell what the feeling is regardless of language or if there's even words.
Good
So cool.
point. Who are some of your inspirations as a singer songwriter?
Oh, well, definitely Brandy Carlisle, and then Taylor Swift. That seems like kind of on the opposite ends of the spectrum, but I think that they're both really great songwriters and have done a really great job of creating their brand and the way that they interact with their communities and stuff. Um, who else? Sarah Bareilles, David Gray, Ray LaMontagne, Joy Williams. I'm forgetting. I'm always going to forget so many people. Elton John. Who else? So I mean, the list goes on and on.
There's so many great ones, and you can hear that it's kind of like as we develop and we pay homage to them. Have you gotten to perform with any of these guys?
No, the ones that I
Not
just
yet.
mentioned. No, not yet. I mean, when I was, hanging out with Brandy Carlisle more, there were some moments that were cool, like where I was sort of helping figure out harmonies and stuff, but that was all behind the scenes. I never like performed with them.
Well, I think that's coming. Now, what's your live schedule like? I know you're very busy in the studio. What's your live schedule like?
I actually do a bunch of I've been doing a bunch of and I need to get better about updating my website. Like, I need
Don't
new
we
assist.
all? Mine's
Um
woefully out of date today.
yeah, I played a lot of wineries over the summer.
That seems like a
So,
nice pairing for any singer, for anybody. A beautiful atmosphere, great wine,
yeah,
great music. It's a perfection.
exactly. And for people out there who want to come to them, they're free. You don't have to pay an entrance fee. but then you entrance fee, and then you get to sit there and drink wine, sometimes eat, and I sing music, and then it's just based on like buying my albums or tips or whatever. And so yeah, I've been playing a lot up in Central California at wineries, and I have a show. The big show that I have coming up in LA is at the Hotel Cafe on August 25th. It's 9 p.m. It's going to be the album release party. So I am trying to really pull out the stops for that. So if you're out there listening, if you're going to be in California, or if you want to come, August 25th at
So
Hotel Cafe.
full albums being dropped in August, right?
September 9th actually is the date that it comes out, but the album release party is going to be at August 25th. And so that's going to be cool because I'm going to have the CDs there. So if you are there, you can have the album 2 weeks before it comes out.
Phenomenal. So what's it like writing an album in 2022 and releasing an album? I mean, it's such a singles driven market. Why do artists still put albums out?
I mean, I think for artists, because it's the art of it. Because we like to create that whole structure package story. And then in sort of less less inspiring maybe reasons would be things like you can only get on the charts or like Grammys or awards and stuff if you have an album. I mean, not only you can obviously get awards for singular songs, but there were reasons involving charts and awards too.
Interesting. I didn't think about those, but certainly, I just think that I think there's such artistic validity in that. And wouldn't we, if it was only a bunch of singles, you think about the great albums of all time, how less rich we are musically and culturally when you've got these albums that painstakingly go in order that makes sense and a logical progression.
Totally. And yeah, they create a mood, or they just tell the story. I mean, any art really, if you look at the art, you know what's going on with the artist in some way. And I think that's really interesting. And so yeah, if an album comes out of a artist that I really like, I just find a time to quietly listen to the whole album all the way through, because it's meant to be. And then also, I tend to be a person who listens. If I listen to an album, my favorite songs are not usually the singles. So what a shame if we were only put out like those kinds of songs that are going to be successful as singles, and that's all that people did. We would miss out on those other beautiful songs.
I call them I always say the B-sides, and my kids have no idea what I'm talking about. That's a record. When you turn over the record, it's
Yeah. But I tend to really, really like those. And I know I'm not alone in this. I'm not like trying to say I'm special, but like they tend not to be the radio singles,
Yeah, I with the famous bands that I love, or the artists, I'll just skip the famous stuff because I've heard it a million times. I want to hear the deep cuts, those where you really get to know the artist, I think.
Yeah, and because it's definitely already happening, but if people don't, it doesn't occur to people to be like, oh, I like this song. Maybe I'll go listen to some of their other music. Like, I'm sure it does to an extent if they like it enough. But when you were listening to an album before, it would be like, oh, I really like this song. Oh, the next one's playing. Oh, I like this one too.
I think it was Adele. She took out the random play option from one of her albums. I'm like, what a cool idea, because she wanted it to be heard in that order.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we put thought into that, y'all. I spent a whole week being like, wait, which one should it go? And because of the meaning and because of the sound and like what's more important in this arc, and like, you think about it.
I love that kind of that architecture. Tell us about this album. And is there a certain arc that you want people to hear when it comes out, or what can you give away before it happens?
Well, that again, I was just thinking about all of that, and I'm like, okay, do I want this to be telling a story in terms of the content of the songs? I've done that before in an album. This one I think is a little bit more in terms, like, it just flows in what made sense sonically and feeling wise. But actually I realized too, as I was doing it, this album is a lot about my own journey of kind of reflection and coming in and finding, at the risk of sounding cheesy, but finding the love within myself. Like, I've done a lot of writing about heartbreak songs, sort of what I'm known for, but now I'm I'm coming into a place of like, oh, I can have love and happiness and joy in my life that comes from inside me. Doesn't have to come from another person. Other people are great and they can add to your joy, but but this is about, embracing the unknown, um, finding your power, letting the hard things and the grief and the whatever is going on actually be something that washes over you and smooths your edges and cleans you.
Mm.
Those are what a lot of the songs are about, telling yourself a different story about your life. Like if my story has been I am always lonely and sad, um there's actually a song called A Different Story, and it says like, can you tell me a different story? This one's getting boring, there's no happy ending. And so that's what this is about. And as some of the songs I was like, oh, but this one goes from feeling really empowered to then this is a sad one about that, like, oh, I had to write you a heartbreak song because you broke my heart and it could have been happy. But then I'm like, wait, but that is the journey. It goes like this. It's not just like, oh, I've decided I'm on a self, I'm growing, so now it's just this all the way. Like, so I think it totally still works for how the experience has been for me and how I think a lot of people could probably relate to the experience as well.
Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. I think I love having these conversations with artists. We learn so much from each other that, you know, I just find it amazing that, someone's heartbreak can, resonate so deeply with people and across the world that these emotions, they're cathartic to other people. They may not know the specific situation, but we always put ourselves in every song.
Yeah. I mean, even those songs that are super duper specific, like we were sitting by that arcade in like this specific town, and I was drinking this strawberry smoothie. Like, I don't know, like just people, maybe that exact thing didn't happen to you, but people get that moment in their
Yeah,
lives and they have those too. So,
very exciting. So how long did it take to put this album together from conception? How long did it take to write the music? And how long have you been in the studio?
um, well, it's an interesting question because some of the songs, like actually the Different Story song, I think I started writing 10 years ago.
Wow. Been germinating for a long time.
Yeah, it was kind of there for a long time, and it just never really fit on another album. I sort of tried a few times, um, but this one it finally worked, and I did end up writing a little bit extra to fit what was going on. Um, and then one of the other songs, Earthquake, I wrote a few years ago with a co-write, which was great. But then the other ones, like I said, I tend to have these ideas in my head for however long, months, and then I have to sit down and create them. So it's not like I just like come with a blank page and I write a song. So that's a little bit of a weird timeline. But from when I sat down to write the songs to the album being complete was about like 2 months.
Oh,
I did do it pretty quickly.
that is.
Because-
I imagine that there's a huge studio learning curve. So when you first started, it probably took longer to get all this together.
yes.
But now that in this part of your career, it's more seamless.
Yes, for sure. Just the idea of, yeah, as you practice things, they become a little bit more, they flow a little bit more. So like I can say to my producer, hey, I want to record this album before I'm done writing the songs, because I've found, as much as it may be better in some ways to be like, I wrote all these songs and they're amazing and now I'm going to record them, I tend to not get to the point of finishing the songs unless I have a deadline.
We
So I'm
all
like, I
need that
want to
deadline.
record
I'm the
these
same way.
songs. Yeah, so I'm like, I want to finish these songs and record them. So let's get in the studio. Let's get it on a calendar. And then I'm like, okay, I better finish the songs. So yeah.
Have you worked with the same producer for a long time? Is it someone you've have a long history?
Yeah. I've worked with a number of great people, but the last few albums that I've done have been with Billy Loeffler, Death Star Studios in Koreatown in LA. And we've definitely had a learning curve and growing curve with each other. I think I think someone said to me, if you're not in a fight at least once with your producer, then you're not doing it right. Um, or you just don't care or something. But like, yeah, we've definitely had differences of opinion on how to do things, and we've learned from each other and come to a great working relationship. So
So tell us about that relationship between just the general relationship between a producer and an artist. I'm always fascinated by how songs can change when you get to the studio, like what
oh,
the
yeah.
producer brings to it and how that affects the final product.
Oh yeah. I mean, so much. I I do definitely have visions of how I want my songs to sound before I come into the studio, and I'll like send him playlists of that this is kind of the example track that I'm working on, and he'll be able to take that and be like, yeah, I can do that exactly, or like, oh, and how about let's do something a little bit different, or he'll be like, this is stupid, let's do this. Like, um, or actually one of the songs, Earthquake, started out as a totally different vibe. And we've actually recorded it before as more of kind of a punk rock, something that was supposed to be in like commercials, for Sync and stuff. But I was like, this is a really powerful song, and I think we could do something with it that's more in the line with the Americana vibe. And he was all down to do that. And we actually started out doing something a little different, and then discovered this little fun riff on the guitar, and he's like, wait, and then he got all excited, and he's like, just let me do my thing. He becomes a mad scientist, and he's like, look what I created. And then I had to completely sing it differently, re-record the vocals because it just made more sense, and it turned out really cool. So yeah, that's a definite example of one that totally changed and shifted, but for I don't want to say better because they're just different, but like really great. That was not what I had imagined.
I love this. As a collaborative artist, I'm a conductor. I work with orchestras and with operas, and each person brings something unique to the artistic table, and it changes the perspectives on things. And I just find that a fascinating process.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because my producer and I have a relationship that's more li- like for whatever reason I started working with him. We got along well. We got each other's sense of humor, and then we'd done a few songs together. And then this was years ago, like I guess 5 years ago now. He was like, well, so we're about to have a baby. My wife and I are about to have a baby, and I was thinking, do you want to be our nanny? Like, it's just like sort of out of the blue. He's like, you just seem like you'd be good at taking care of kids. And I'm like, I do. Okay. I've been a nanny and babysitting, since I was like 12. So he had a good sense. But we actually, the first album that I did with him was because of that deal. He was like, you take care of my child and I will make you music as like a trade. And so we had a lot of time together, and I like, love his children dearly. And so we have like sort of this deeper friendship too. So it's been really,
How exciting, because your music has really done very well, and it's growing, and you're getting tons of listens, and what a cool artistic collaboration.
yeah, it's been good.
But as with anything, but there's always these challenges and differences of opinion, because, as you said, your music is fully formed and very personal. So when you bring it in, it must be there must always be those kind of this kind of like how what changes to make, how to make them must always be a concern.
Definitely. And if you have different kind of styles or philosophies of things, like I actually had to fight with him for a little while on, I'm like, I do not want to use auto tune ever.
Good for
Like,
you.
don't
Good
tune
for
my
you.
vocals. Now, I'm not gonna lie, there are one or two places on this album where we were like, that was an amazing performance, but you just like went a little flat at the end of that note. Let's just go into Melodyne and just like nudge it just a little. But it's like that. It's not like I'm gonna put a whole filter on
The
this.
entire song needs to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like we could train them with voice lessons. Like yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I say. I'm like, I'm going to sing it until it's good. Don't just be like, oh, well, fix it in post. Like, no, stop. You know?
One two notes, not a big deal, but that's beautiful, and I think so many. So, what's your view on the artistic landscape of today in pop and pop and popular music? I mean, it's such like it's all about getting music out as fast as possible and finding that market. What's it like from your end? You're in the center of the entertainment world.
Yes, it is. It is all about continuing to put out content, which can be honestly really exhausting. It's I want to try to stay positive, so I'll say it's fun, um, because I'm always getting to do something a little different. Um, but as like ba- almost a one woman situation. I'm gathering a lovely team of people that are helping me out, but have been doing this for basically on my own for a long time, and that can be really hard to be like, okay, so every month you have to put out a song, and so not
Wow.
only are you going to be creating those things, writing and recording them, you'll also be promoting whatever was before at the same time. And that can be a little rough because you have to be in so many modes at the same time. You know,
The indie artist is so many responsibilities.
yeah.
It's
So like
I do the same with the podcast, and yeah, it's the promotion arm, putting it out there, generating the content, setting up the bookings. It just never ends. And for you, it's like setting up live performances and then doing the social media work. It never ends.
yeah. I mean, sometimes it's funny to realize when I look at my life and my day, there is so much of behind the scenes work, all the admin work, that's what I feel like is my work. And so I'll have a day where I am like performing for 3 hours, and I did a writing session, and I, filmed something like music video or whatever. And then I'll look back and be like, oh, I didn't get any work done today. And then I'm like, wait a second, that is your work. This other admin stuff, which is what I think of as work, is like the other stuff. But yeah, it's good to remember, and I love those days when I get to be the artist.
Yeah, I do a lot of that myself too. I do a lot of admin work, and I have a university position, and then I guess conduct and do a lot of conducting. But I balance myself. I think the artistic part feeds my soul for me to do the other things because it's part of the process. But it's not the reason we got into this. It's like not to I guess some people love social media so much for its own sake, but it's just to get the art out there, right?
I know, right? Like the people, and bless their hearts. People who are just out there on social media just putting out content because they like to, and I guess it is obviously probably making them money. So that's a motivation. But like I don't feel like if I wasn't trying to sell my music or get fans, I would probably not be on social media that much.
I don't put a lot of personal stuff on social media anymore. It's really about I have this concert coming up. I hear if you can see me conduct there, you can do this. Or the podcast, I'm featuring this artist. But yeah, I find that it's really mostly a promotional tool. How do you balance your, I know in today's market, people want to get to know the artist, especially with music like yours, which is so personal. They want to feel they get to know you. How do you find that life balance with social media? And, some people are putting pictures of their meals on their social media. How do you find your balance?
Of specifically on social media.
Yeah.
um I don't know, because there's always kind of all kinds of different advice on what you should be including. Um, Especially if you're trying to get verified. They're like, don't put pictures of your food. But but I guess I tend to have it be mostly about my music, or if it is something somewhat personal, like somewhere that I'm traveling or other shows that I'm getting to see, I make sure to relate it back somehow to what I'm doing as an artist. It's not always, and I'm working on it, not always being about just like do this, do that, like save my thing, pre-order, blah blah blah. Come to my show. So I try to like it will be that, but I'll be like, "Hey, look at this fun thing that I did in Las Vegas last week. PS, you could come see my show too." Like you know.
Very
I don't
nice.
know.
And how do you deal with the negative aspects? Because we all know that social media can be such a double-edged sword. How do you deal with when the negative stuff comes in? How do you keep yourself positive? And because I find it's hard to create art in negative environments, right? It's a really, at least in optimal, we want to be in a positive place to create.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. And I would say as much as it can be energetically draining at times to be so on. with if I'm doing live streaming every day and posting on social media and stuff, it can be somewhat draining, but it can also be really energizing because I am so, so lucky and fortunate to have, and I think probably some of them are watching right now, the best fans. Like, they're so supportive, so positive. When they see that I'm down, they're the ones like being like, "It's okay, Kris," like, and you can take a break, and just like, just so oftentimes I'll feel down or something, and then I'll go get on a live stream, and it makes me feel better. Um, and yes, of course, there are those trolls and stuff, but I've gotten to a point, uh, you know, in large part because of my fans and in the work that I'm doing with myself and self confidence and everything, that I just laugh most of the time at the trolls. Um, like,
Like
you know,
you don't have to listen to my music. You don't have to go on my social media. That's your choice.
yeah, like they're like, "Oh my God, stop it. My ears are bleeding." I'm like, I'll just be like, "Oh, I'm sorry that you're having that. That you should probably get that checked out. But there's a little X right here. That's just tap that. You'll be all good." Like, either do stuff like that or don't. I just ignore them. Or every once in a while, I guess if I'm in a mood, I get mad at them and say something. But usually it's around something else. It's not usually. It's like if they start saying inappropriate stuff about, I don't know, race or LGBTQ stuff or like whatever. Like, in June I was wearing a rainbow guitar strap for Pride, and people were making comments about that, and I'll be like, "Yeah, we don't tolerate that here," or I'll get mad on other people's behalf, but I don't usually get as so mad on my own behalf anymore. So,
Well, that's good. Yeah, finding that balance is always a challenge, and it's so important because it can get really negative out there in the social media atmosphere, and finding that positivity, I think, is very important.
yeah. Um yeah. I was just thinking about like what happened the other day where someone was like talking about, oh, my favorite is when they try to criticize you, like, and belittle you, and I'm like, this happened the day that my album came out, and it was number 1 on the iTunes Singer Songwriter charts. Is the day that it came out.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That was just recently.
No, last year, the last
Last
album.
last album.
And someone, I was live streaming, and someone was like, "Oh, she's pretty, but she needs to work on the guitar, or like, don't quit your day job, sweetie." And I was just like, "Cool, cool, cool. So you're an expert? That's cool. What number of on iTunes is your album? What number on the Billboard charts is your album? Because mine's,
Very
and
easy to criticize, right? It's
yeah.
very easy.
And P.S. This is my day job, so, and I'm making a good living at it, so
Day job, night job, weekend job. There's no
it's my
job. It's
all the
passion.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say being an artist is never like 9 to 5. We work all the time. You never stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you mentioned, that there's all the pre-work, there's all the post-work, there's the live streaming, there's the concerts, there's the setup. I mean, if you
Yeah.
think about the hours, we do not work a normal job at all.
No, I there's a sound on Reels or TikTok or something that says something like that, where it was like, I decided I didn't want to do the 9 to 5, so I became my own boss and started my own business, and now I work 24/7.
I've been doing that for like 30 years.
Yeah,
But I can't imagine doing anything else. Being an artist is such an honor, and I get to work with such great colleagues, and
absolutely.
life is great. You can't complain.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, yeah, every once in a while if I get a little envious of people who have, steady gigs, their steady jobs, and like just one check that they get from their salary, I'm like, your taxes must be so easy. Um,
Yes, their taxes are easy. It's like they don't even hire anyone. It's like, oh, I just
right?
put your.
But
I work in 6 states or 8 states and 2 countries a year, and
I
it's
know.
never
I
easy.
played in 50 states in 6 months, and it was like, "What? What? Nope. Mm-mm."
How do you keep your sanity when you're traveling that much?
I I don't know. I don't know. Meditation.
Very nice.
But oh, did you go away? Your
I think
screen is
I can
black.
still hear you, so keep going. We might have just
Oh,
lost
okay.
camera feed for a
Now
second.
I can't remember what I was saying, but
Traveling in 50 states in your meditation.
oh, and like, yeah, when I get envious of people who have sort of more like 9 to 5 kind of jobs, then I have to just remind myself, like, I get to do creative things different things. It's not boring. I mean, the tedious stuff is a little boring sometimes, but I get to decide. I'm my own boss. And I can pick up and go wherever I want, whenever I want. So yeah, I got a little wake up call one time when I was complaining one time. I was like, "Oh, I always work so much and I have to do this and da, 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 da," and like constantly. And the person just goes, "Well, you should talk to your boss about that." I was like, "It's me! Oh my god!"
You can always choose to take a day off and set it in the schedule.
A
Absolutely.
good reminder.
Set up you can set up a staff meeting and talk to yourself. That's good.
Exactly.
Well, I've been working as a head of an opera company or a symphony. I did a lot of that over the years. And I always find that my board of directors are always fascinated by what I do and the traveling and all this stuff. It's like whatever you do, whatever the other person does is always fascinating. So I find that people with the 9 to 5s are fascinated by the artist's life.
I know. It's so funny to me too when I was on this tour, someone goes, "Oh my gosh, is it all as glamorous as it seems?" And I was like, "No."
Traveling to 50 states in a year does not sound glamorous because there's
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
like,
performing's glamorous, getting up there and to do it in front of people, but the reality is
yeah.
much more
I
rooted.
told them that. I was like, "Let me answer your question with a little story. Is it glamorous?" Just before I came here to play on stage, I had to move my car because it's gonna snow tonight, and if I parked it here, I wouldn't be able to leave. So I just walked through the slushy snow for half a mile to get here, and then I sat down and I had this burrito that I had bought over there, but they didn't give me utensils. So I was eating a burrito out of like a to-go container with my face like this, because I didn't have any utensils and I had to go on stage in 10 minutes. So is that as glamorous as it seems?
It's pretty glamorous, I got to tell you. It's yeah. When you get to know people in the business, it's like life isn't never as glamorous as it seems. Even for the top of the business, it can be. There are moments that are super glamorous, but then
There are
there's like
moments. I got
them
to go to the
there.
Grammys and that was awesome.
That's amazing. Well, all the work you're doing is so exciting, and I can't wait to hear the next album. What's the name of the album?
It's called Damn Shame Waste, which actually seems, as I described it, as this like coming to love yourself, like sounds like a really negative title. That was my producer's. He pushed really hard for it. He's like, "Oh my gosh, you have to call the album this," because there's this line in one of the songs that's actually about my dad who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's a few years ago, and it's really changed things. And he was always very outgoing and could make friends with anybody and just like super just helpful. Like his love language is acts of service. And since this diagnosis and since his illness, he's been able to do less and less, and he's starting to feel like, "Oh, I'm just useless and there's no point," and blah blah blah. And I wrote this song to just be like, "It's okay, it's okay." And there's a line in it that says, um "It's okay if you forget my name and remember my face. You know that you love me, and I want you to stay, and worrying about anything else would just be a damn shame waste." And it's just, thank you. It's about realizing the present moment and love and feeling joy, and is that's it. And some of this, it applies to the whole album because it's like I have spent so much of my life feeling sad and regret, and that's a damn shame waste. And it would be a damn shame waste not to let all of that go. And now that I've come to a better place, to look back, which I've done, I'm like, "Oh, but I'm in this better place, and now I'm regretting that I was sad for so long." Like, that's stupid. Stop it. Like, and or like there is a song in there that's about like, "Oh, that relationship didn't work. What a damn shame waste. Oh, you missed out," or like whatever. So it just all applies, but it's kind of in an empowering way, if that makes sense. I feel like,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that I do need to explain that to people because it sounds initially like not the greatest title, but I think once I explain it, people get it.
Well, I can't wait to hear how you encapsulate that incredible emotion into a song, and And yeah, that just like you're getting to meet you and to hear you over this. I can't wait to hear these music now, and it's going to be so exciting. And that comes out one more time. Where can people go to hear it? I just put your link to your website in the chat there, and hopefully people go on there and check out your website and follow you all over your social media. And as you put out more great music.
Yeah, thank you. If you go to krisangelis.com, it's KRISANGELIS.com. You can find all of my socials on there. Please follow me on all the things. And you can find the link to buy the album on my website, on iTunes, Bandcamp, and Amazon. It's only $5 to pre-order it. Yeah,
I encourage everyone to support great artists like Kris who are doing beautiful work and really pouring their heart and soul out there. Indie artists are, some of the hardest working people, and they're making incredible music, and Kris is one of those. So make sure you support her, and
thank you.
It's going to be worth waiting for.
You can hear 2 of the songs already that are out, and actually a third one is coming out on July 29th. So, yeah, check it out.
Well, thank you so much for joining Music Matters today, and continued success in all of your artistic work.
Thank you for having me, and I hope you feel better.
Like, what do you have? These summer colds, they come and they go, but I would never miss the chance to talk to a great artist. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Please remember to subscribe on YouTube and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on upcoming guests and topics. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, keep music alive. And we're off the air. Thank you so much. Great show. Thank you. Have a great day today.